All right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to the Portsmouth School Department School Committee meeting of Tuesday, June 11th. If you please rise and join me in a pledge of allegiance and a moment of silence for our troops in harm's way. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Prior to this public session, we had an executive session. No votes were taken. May I have a motion, please, to seal the executive session minutes?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Unanimous, 6-0. Please let the roll call reflect that Mr. Piero was not able to join us tonight. In case of emergency, we have 2 exits here, 1 back here, and we will meet over at the school admin building. So what, there's 4 days of school, 1 more school committee meeting this month. I think we're all looking forward to summer, but there's been an awful lot of wonderful events taking place. Had the pleasure, and Ms. Blank was there too, of marching in the Hathaway kindergarten parade, and maybe some of the seniors here remember marching at the Hathaway kindergarten parade, but that was a wonderful event. Ms. Kelly, I think you went with the 3rd grades up to the high school?
Yep, I was fortunate enough to make it to the high school to meet Mrs. Hamilton's 3rd grade Hathaway class. They had been writing to seniors in Mrs. Johnson's English class periodically throughout the school year, and this was the first time they all got to meet in person, and it was really, really sweet watching them get to meet with the bigger kids they'd been talking to all year, and it was just very nice to be included.
Very nice, very nice. We also had high school graduation, which I'm sure the superintendent will report on as well, but Mr. Ferber, Ms. Kelly, Ms. Blank, Ms. McDade, and myself were there, and it really was a beautiful day, a beautiful ceremony, and congratulations to Dr. Heath and the whole high school team for the organization of that. It was really an outstanding job, so great, as well as the seniors who are graduating as well. You made it. Let's see. Upcoming events. I think we have a new event this year in the district, the PMS promotion ceremony on the 14th. And Ms. McDade, you'll be able to represent school committee for that.
I will. I'm looking forward to it.
That's great. I mean, that's a wonderful idea as well. Tomorrow night, just a reminder, there is the town council final vote on the budget here in the chambers at 7 p.m. And I believe Ms. McDade and myself will be there for that. So, okay, that's school events and graduation from our perspective. We're getting to that time where we want to start looking at dates for our school committee workshop. As you know, we're all off in July. Everybody needs a little bit of a break, I think. And we usually have it at the end of August. August 22nd and August 26th have been the suggested dates. And usually it goes from about 12 to 4. This is just a workshop. No votes are ever taken. It's a chance to discuss topics in more detail, like the upcoming strategic plan or things like that. So maybe what we could have, unless people look at that and say, nope, I know that doesn't work, we could have a doodle poll perhaps go around. Because I know Mr. Piero's not here. So one of those 2 dates might be great. Okay, that's it for my remarks. Dr. Kenworthy, recognitions.
Thank you. So this evening, we wanted to recognize our retiring PSD employees. So, all of these individuals, have given quite a bit to the district and everyone in their schools and throughout the district is very sad to be seeing them go. But I know, on to bigger and better things in their retirements from the district. So I think we have several of the individuals here tonight. First up, we wanted to recognize Mrs. Pam Hamilton, grade 3 teacher at Hathaway Elementary School, and she is leaving us after 33 years of service to the district. So Pam, come on up.
I just want to say how humbled and special it has been to be a Portsmouth teacher and to represent this town and all the wonderful children that I have taught over these past 33 plus years. It's been an honor and a privilege to do so. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Pam. And Pam, did I hear, have you been in the same classroom that you're in for all of those years? Isn't that- I know. That's great. All right, next up, I'm gonna start with the people that I think are definitely here. So we're gonna jump to Paul Fisher next. Paul has been a custodian at Portsmouth High School for the past 12 years. You know, a fixture there in that community, and I know they're gonna be very sad to see him go. Paul, come on up.
I just want to thank you all for what you do. We're very fortunate in this community to have a group like this.
Thank you. Will you be, will you still be working at Green Valley?
Hope, yes.
All right, good to know.
That one I'm not getting rid of.
All right, and then next, I know that we have with us tonight, Mrs. Paula Lynch. So Paula will be retiring from the district. She's been in RBT, paraprofessional, most recently at PMS, but in the district for 20 years. And just this past year, a few weeks ago, Paula was named as the Support Professional of the Year. So she's definitely leaving on a high note. Paula, come on up. Aw.
And her mother. That's wonderful.
No.
Cutie. Say thank you. I'm gonna get really emotional, it'll be tough, so it's been a privilege and an honor. I have loved every minute of it and so much that I don't want to say, so.
All right,
That sounds great.
good to know, yes. Thank you, Paula. All right, and we are also recognizing the retirement of Nancy Brandley, who I don't believe is here tonight. Nancy is an art teacher at Portsmouth High School, been in the district for 23 years. And also Miss Ann Burns, clerical staff member at Portsmouth High School, who's been in the district for 15 years. So congratulations to both of them as well.
Have something on the screen?
It's just the agenda.
Oh, okay. Never mind. There was something on the screen.
Next up, we wanted to recognize, had a great graduation on Friday evening, as Dr. Copeland alluded to. This year, we wanted to recognize our top 10 graduates from Portsmouth High School, and Dr. Viveros is going to do those honors.
Great, thank you. So good evening, everyone. It's my pleasure to celebrate the success of the class of 2024's top 10 students. These outstanding individuals have engaged in a rigorous course of study demonstrating an exceptional level of dedication, perseverance, and academic excellence. I am so very proud of all 10 of these students. So in alphabetical order, here they are. Attending Boston College in the fall, where she will study biology and economics, Kara Boxell. Nope, all right. Attending Boston College in the fall, where she will pursue a degree in international studies, Michaela Boxell. I was
Sure,
hoping they
yeah.
would. All right. Attending Brown University in the fall, where she will be pursuing a degree in biology with plans on becoming a physician specializing in dermatology, Edelyn Crisfield. Attending Johns Hopkins University in the fall, where he will be majoring in electrical engineering, Com Dooley. Attending the University of Illinois in the fall, pursuing a degree in electrical engineering, Eric Hurst. Attended Northeastern University in the fall, where she'll pursue a major related to music industry, Sophia Caruso. Attending Pace University in the fall, where she will continue her acting career, Teresa Caton. Attending Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute in the fall, pursuing a degree in biochemistry and biophysics, Megan Malone. Attending Texas A&M in the fall, pursuing a degree in architecture, Ben Norris. And attending the University of New England in the fall, where she plans to pursue a degree in medical biology, Savannah Walsh. Yeah, that would be great. Congratulations. Congratulations. We wish you the best.
And lastly, for our recognitions this evening, we didn't get an opportunity here at a school committee meeting to formally recognize our school committee liaisons for this past year, who've put in a lot of time and done a great job providing that link between us and the high school students. We did recognize both of these students at senior awards night during senior week, and they did receive a small scholarship award that the school committee gives out that night. But we wanted to formally recognize this evening Lila Kerwin and Oliver Tibbetts.
Watch, I'll be up there.
So thank you, Bill. Yeah. And best of luck to all of our graduating seniors. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
And retirees.
And retirees, yes. Thank you all. I mean, if you add up those years of service, that's over 100, I'm sure. Thank you all so much for coming for the recognitions. I think it's really important to kind of congratulate people on the hard work they do, for decades, as well as for 4 years at the high school. 1 year as the representative, you had to sit through some of these meetings. So we really appreciate you all. And if you'd like to leave now, you're more than welcome to if you want to. Thank you. Thank you. Have a great summer. Thank you. Good night. Well, we do always usually lose a lot of our audience after the recognitions are done, but that's why we also put them first so that they don't have to stay for the whole meeting. So moving on to our subcommittee updates. We have up first Climate and Culture from May 29th. Ms. Skian.
Yes, we met on May 29th at Melville, and we Dr. Viveros summarized efforts that have occurred even before this subcommittee formed, and then the work that was done this year, and helped identify the themes that would be focused on at each school level. And then we had a brainstorming activity where we were able to break out into groups based on the school level and one for the district, and come up with solutions to address those kind of challenge theme areas. And all of those suggestions, along with every other suggestion that was raised throughout our 4 subcommittee meetings throughout the year, were compiled together to help prioritize steps going forward. So that was the final meeting of our subcommittee.
Great. I would just like to, I mean, I know we have climate and culture here on the agenda as really kind of the next steps, but I really do think we need to give Ms. Skian, Dr. Viveros a huge round of applause. They put a lot of effort and time into that this year. Thank you both for all of that hard work. Policy Subcommittee, Ms. McDade.
Thank you. We met on June 3rd and discussed 4 policies. The first policy EF about food services, we had discussed in our last general meeting, and we discussed some revisions to that policy, and you'll see it on the agenda today for final read. There were 2 others that we reviewed and voted to move forward to this committee. Those were policy GBEC, a drug-free workplace policy, and policy ICA, school calendar policy. And then in addition, we discussed policy IICA about field trips and decided to revise it and return it to the subcommittee at our next meeting.
Okay, thank you. Do you guys meet? You don't meet in July, do you?
No, I
Yeah, we
think,
set our next meeting date for the
for
beginning of
September.
September.
Beginning of September, okay.
Yeah.
Well, you guys are the hardest working subcommittee, I think, on the school committee, so. All right, I don't believe there was any public comment because I was just up there. Personnel updates, Dr. Kenworthy.
Thank you. So personnel updates since our last school committee meeting, and we've got quite a few this evening. I'm also going to be running through just our teacher leadership appointments. So a lot of these people are doing these positions in addition to their teaching roles, and they, in some cases receive a stipend to do these positions. And then we do have quite a few fall coaching appointments as well that I can finalize and update on, and then we'll have the remaining number of those coming up on June 25th. There's still some that we're waiting on some final paperwork on. First up, I did just want to recognize there were 3 resignations since our last school committee meeting. So Stacy Delecta, who had been a grade 3 teacher, had been working at Melville. She did just take, I have it listed as grade 3 teacher at Hathaway. That was a position that she did take most recently, but had decided that she's not going to be able to come back with us, has been working on starting a family. Amanda Turcott, who is an assistant principal at PHS, most recently a fellow at the Rhode Island Department of Education, will be pursuing a full-time opportunity at RIDE. And then Ashley Spada, an RBT at Melville, will also be leaving us at the end of the school year for another opportunity. We did have one additional retirement, mentioned it in our recognitions this evening, but formally for the record, since the last school committee meeting, this is Paula Lynch, who we recognize this evening, did submit her retirement. So moving on to our teacher leadership positions, these are department head and coordinator positions, again, who make up the bulk of, who I know are our building leaders and also at the district, individuals we lean on quite heavily for teacher leadership roles. So just to finalize for the record, at Portsmouth High School, coordinators of student life, Leah Zell and Tim Marum, who is coming back to the district after spending a few years in Providence. Coordinator of Student Services at PHS, this is Melissa Samini. And then the department heads, department head for English, Kaylin Johnson, Math, Eliza Piliotis, Science, Nicole Noble. Library, this is actually a district leadership position of all librarians, Sarah Hunicke. PHS Social Studies Department Chair will be Jim Beatrice. Art, Music, and CTE, which are all lumped together for this department chair role, Diane Crease. Modern World Language, this position also helps to coordinate both at the high school and the middle school where we have world languages, Lynn Hogan. And then PE and Health, same thing. This position is actually K-12, helping to coordinate all of our PE and health activities, Joel DeMarco. Over at the middle school, coordinators of student life for next year will be Bethany Pritchard and Ryan Marsland. And then coordinator of student services will be David Nath. And then at the elementary level, coordinator of student services for the elementary level will be Mark Gonzalez. Coordinator of early childhood services will be Lauren Barres. And our coordinator of nursing services, once again, will be Tara Jonkis. So again, those are the most of our teacher leadership positions. Lastly, fall coaching positions, the ones that we have finalized. JV head soccer coach at Portsmouth High School will be Jeffrey McGurl. JV girls soccer coach Louis Robinson. Head girls volleyball coach at PHS will be Lisa Zabel. JV assistant coach Jen Franco for volleyball. Head football coach Keith McDonald. And then we have a number of the football assistant coaching positions. Joseph Lane, Jake McGraw, Ryan McDonald, Kyle McDonald, Carmine Prestipino will all be on the coaching staff there. And then in addition to volunteer coaches, Bruce Maserati, Alex Pister, Tyree Bachman, Michael Faria, Chris Dugan, and Brad Landerville. And then lastly, for this list for this meeting, Nancy Mendonça will once again be the cross-country coach at PMS. So, and we'll have a few remaining coaching positions that we'll finalize between now and the next meeting. And then moving on to district updates since our last meeting. So we had high school graduation last Friday evening, but then on Monday morning, we got to also enjoy pre-K graduation, which took place at Melville. So this is a tradition that started last year and is becoming much anticipated. It was, just a wonderful time for us on Monday morning at Melville. So most of our pre-K graduates will be moving on to kindergarten in either Melville or Hathaway, and a few, will be leaving us for various reasons. And then just some things that each school wanted to report out on. Last week at Hathaway, their after-school theater group gave an inspiring performance. And also the grade 3 wax museum was a big hit for families. Students and staff also had an awesome time cheering on the graduates as they walked through for their final walk at Hathaway. And the grade 4 team gave a presentation to grade 3 parents. And then, and this was a great opportunity for the families to be able to answer questions and get a look at what 4th grade will look at next year. Over at Melville, this is a much anticipated tradition, the fourth graders were able to leave their handprints on the wall at Melville, which if you've ever walked the hall there, you can see. I think they're running out of space. We'll have to be figuring that out at some point. They also had their grad walk for Melville alumni who were PHS graduates. Their kindergarten enjoyed a trip to Coggeshall Farm, and first graders had a great time visiting Casey Farm to culminate their chicken and duck family night. So there was a lot of chicken and duck hatching happening at both schools over the last few weeks. Yeah. At PMS, Dr. Colvin mentioned earlier, this was, we brought on pre-K graduation last year. Both of our fourth grades had been doing a move-up ceremony. Of course, we have the culminating graduation for our seniors. So the last missing piece of this, the middle school has brought on board this year. There will be an official promotional ceremony for eighth graders and their families, which will occur on Friday evening. And immediately following that, the eighth grade will have their traditional final dance, which will take place that night. And then they will be prepared for their high school journey. So as Dr. Colvin mentioned again, last Friday evening, great graduation. I say every year that it just, seems to get better and better, but this year absolutely just, everything from the weather on down to the organization. Dr. Heath brought a few changes with him from his experiences, and they were all fantastic. Student speakers were excellent, Dr. Heath and Dr. Copeland as well. I hope I was able to hold my own there. Also, a few things that PHS wanted to mention, as Mrs. Kelly had talked about, the grade 3 pen pals were able to come and visit their high school counterparts. They also were able to take a tour of the high school, which I'm sure they enjoyed. Final exams are starting for underclassmen at the high school. And then this weekend, the Portsmouth Community Yard Sale, which is rescheduled, will be happening. There's also an e-waste event happening on Saturday at the high school, so it will be a busy parking lot area at Portsmouth High School on Saturday. A few other things that I wanted to mention. Final thank you from myself to the Rhode Island Office of Energy Resources. Our district was recently recognized with a Lead by Example award nomination, although we didn't win the actual award. We were able to attend the ceremony. Myself and Mr. Hool, our Director of Facilities, were able to get our presentation from Governor McKee and Senator Whitehouse. Our district was recognized for the completion of our LED lighting upgrades. We now have completed those upgrades for all school buildings, the admin building, and our stadium lights at PHS and including the field house. So we have done every available area, and that's a key push here for the Office of Energy Resources. So it was a good ceremony to be part of. And then I wanted to recognize Dr. Heath, who is here with us this evening. So he was recently named a 2024 40 Under 40 award winner by the Providence Business News Association. So Dr. Heath is among this group of 40 young professionals in Rhode Island. Every year, Providence Business News recognizes 40 people in this category. And they're from all different fields, education, pharmaceutical, architecture, construction, manufacturing, finance, government, technology, and healthcare this year. Dr. Heath, when I looked at the list, one of the things that I noticed is he is the only selection from the field of K-12 education. So congratulations on that. And I did want to update, we will send out continual reminders to our families. We've had a few updates now on summer programming and what construction will look like this summer. But the Melville and Hathaway campuses will both be closed this summer due to extensive projects that they'll have going on. So pretty much as soon as students and staff clear the building on Monday, I'm sure the contractors will be waiting to put up their construction fencing. Both of those areas will be unfortunately off limits, including outdoor areas with playgrounds and basketball courts due to the work taking place this summer. PMS and PHS, will not have any of the bond project happening this summer, so while there will be the regular cleaning and some minor work taking place, they will be considered fully operational. All of our summer programs will be happening at either of these locations. And one thing that we will just continue to point out, though, for families, if you will be attending a program at PHS this summer, please note that the town will be doing extensive work on Patriot Drive and Education Lane. And so we upgraded Memorial Drive last year. They're going to upgrade both of those roadways this summer. They are going to do them on alternating weeks so that there will at least be one other entrance in and out of the campus in addition to Memorial Drive. And again, just a final update on end of year activities. We've got the grade 4 stepping up ceremony taking place at Melville on Thursday. Hathaway will have theirs on Friday. The 8th grade promotional exercises on Friday evening that we mentioned. Monday will be the official last day of the school year. And then we'll move into summer activities. Wednesday, June 19th is an official holiday. Although schools will be closed, school is out. For any full year employees, all schools in the admin building will be closed. So unless there are any questions, that concludes my district and personnel updates.
I actually have a question.
Mhm.
I didn't realize that the entire playground at Melville was going to be off limits. How are they going to, that's a huge area. How are they going to make that off limits?
Yeah, they'll put the construction fencing up. They actually did the same thing last year. Melville was having the roof
Right,
and
right, I
bathroom
remember
work.
that.
So
Okay.
yeah,
All right.
yeah. It's just that there'll be times where it's dangerous, so it's
Sure.
it's a
No, I mean, it
liability.
makes
and they have
sense. I
to
was
do
just
that, yeah,
thinking,
Yeah.
hard to
yeah.
physically close it off.
It will be, but we do have to just officially announce that that's the case, and
Yeah.
we'll
Okay.
keep sending reminders.
There are basketball hoops over at the middle school,
There are.
so. All right. Is that a question or a comment?
No, someone joining.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Dr. Kenworthy. I appreciate that. Moving on to the more mundane parts here. Can I have approval for school committee minutes, May 28th, exec and regular session?
I move for the approval of the school committee meeting minutes of May 28th, executive session, and the approval of the regular school committee meeting minutes.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Unanimous 6-0. Moving on to business for tonight. Can I have a motion, please, for A?
I move for discussion on the 2024 climate and culture goal and next steps.
Second.
All in favor? Discussion? Unanimous 6-0. Dr. Kenworthy, I believe you're
Thank
leading
you.
off with the presentation.
Yes, so thank you. We wanted to put this on this evening. It is on for as a discussion item, just as a final wrap up, as Mrs. Scan mentioned. We had our last official climate and culture subcommittee meeting on May 29th. That was the same day of the Rhode Island Energy Awards ceremony, so I had to be at that. But I know we just wanted to be able to put final closure on some of the great work that took place this year, came from that last meeting, and talk about where we see next steps moving into next year. So tonight, I will be providing an overview of the work that was done this year related to our district climate and culture goal, and also provide some discussion points for next steps that we plan to take in the 2024-25 school year. Next slide. Okay, just have a few slides here. I wanted to start with, again, this is goal number 2 of the goals that the school committee set for me. There's annual goals that are set each year. They do emanate from our district strategic plan. Once they're set for me, they also become goals for our district leaders and building principals, and then from there, work their way down into all of our schools. So they really do become a key focus of our district. This goal number 2, again, reads that in order to ensure that all students feel safe and supported and deepen a culture of inclusivity and transparency within the Portsmouth School District, we will examine our current practices related to school climate and culture and make necessary improvements. Okay, so that was the work that we've been engaged in around this topic for this year. And again, I just wanted to point out the links there to our strategic plan. We'll be talking a lot about our current plan is moving into its final year and then getting ready for the process that we'll be undertaking to form our next plan. But priority area 2 in our current district strategic plan around social emotional supports, and priority area 4 around communication were the key links there. Next slide. Okay. So as I was just putting together a few of the things I wanted to highlight, I really thought that this was one thing that was worth highlighting tonight. So, when you look at this goal and everything that went into the work across the district this year, just in the data collection phase alone, right? We've had 4 subcommittee meetings, right, which we set for 1 at each school. And then in addition, we did 4 separate climate and culture walks, a total of 8 parent-teacher association meetings, which are dedicated to this topic, 1 that Dr. Viveros led in the fall and 1 that I led in the spring. 4 staff meetings, 1 at each of our schools dedicated to this topic. 3 rounds of the Pulse survey, as you know, for staff and families in the fall, winter, and spring. And then 1 student survey for middle and high school students that our Rachel's Challenge leadership group led. So, again, this was a lot of work around one goal this year. So I wanted to take the opportunity and just thank everyone from top to bottom in the district. Truly a collective effort when you look at all of those items. Our staff, obviously, administrators, students, and family members. In particular, I know we mentioned it already this evening, but I wanted to thank Mrs. Skian, Dr. Viveros for the leadership of the group. Also, Ms. Rhodes here, who I know helped tremendously throughout the year with coordination and providing assistance to anyone who needed it as work was happening around this goal. So thank you. Next slide. So at the final subcommittee meeting on May 29th, there was a brainstorming activity that Mrs. Skian had alluded to. Just trying to bring some closure to all of the data that was collected and provide feedback on recommendations for next year. So those key recommendations, which are summarized on the slide, include ensuring that district policies strengthen our practices related to climate and culture, providing opportunities for students, staff, and families to voice concerns and needs, refining our Tier 1 practices related to MTSS, and again, this would be across all schools, focusing on microaggressions, bullying and harassment, and the overuse of electronic devices, and incorporating the following high priority areas of need into the development of school improvement plans, and then our new district strategic plan engagement activities. So student engagement, communication, and staff morale were 3 of the key things that came up. So thank you to everyone for contributing to that brainstorming activity. And so last slide that I have leading into any discussion. So I know also, as I pointed out all the various activities that took place around this goal, one of the things that I noticed, and I just wanted to point out, that was, our principals, responding on the spot to feedback that we heard at these meetings or from the Pulse surveys. Just a few examples, being both of our elementary schools working on increasing after school opportunities for students. I know at the middle school, there was a refocus on strengthening connections with military students and families. And the high school, listening to student feedback and implementing changes related to bathroom usage. So, that will continue, I'm sure, into next year as well, as we hear things or areas of concern raised that we need to address. Again, this list by no means captures everything, that either took place this year or will be taking place as we move into next school year and beyond. But here are some of the things that I know for sure will be happening, right? One of the first things that we'll be doing. So principals, myself, Dr. Viveros, we have an embargoed copy of the Survey Works data from 2024. There should be a public release coming within the next few weeks. Once that happens, we'll begin the process of crosswalking, right, our 2024 Survey Works results and anything we can link from the pulse survey results. You know, one of the key things there was we used the same Panorama platform, you know, so it allows us to do that and make some key connections there. Our strategic plan development, again, we're moving into the final year of our current strategic plan. We'll be undertaking a new process to develop our new 5-year plan. So there will be student, staff, community surveys and forums, definitely in the fall next year. The focus for the fall, you know, surveys or forums will be related to the strategic plan development work that we'll be doing. School improvement goals, principal and district leadership evaluation goals. Again, these are things that happen every year, but just wanted to make sure they were included on the list. There will be a focus on, you know, climate and culture, things that we heard from this year, things that we know we want to implement moving into next year in all of those goals. And then, you know, merging the work that has been done. One of the things that we've been talking quite a bit about is that we have noticed there's a lot of overlap between our Health and Wellness Committee. Prior to this year with the Climate and Culture Committee, we had a separate equity subcommittee that we've been running. And then this year, obviously, climate and culture. And there's just a lot of overlap with the topics, the individuals who tend to be, you know, attracted and show up to the meetings because, you know, they're interested in the topics. And so if merging the work of those 3 groups would be following a current model that the Rhode Island Department of Education is undertaking around how, you know, the office, if you will, that is tasked there with looking at all of those things. You know, all of those are merged under one umbrella at RIDE now. Policy subcommittee, we've mentioned, you know, one of our most active subcommittees that we have. So critical to this work, right? Just a constant review and drafting of policies and making sure that there's always a focus on the topics and things, you know, that come up through this climate and culture work. And then I just wanted to point out one of the changes that I can tell you for sure, just things I had been thinking I wanted to implement for next year. So, you know, in past, I've been going to meetings. It's been, you know, an opportunity for me to engage with either staff or parents. Next year, I'm going to shift to what, again, I'm not inventing any of this. This is the things that I've picked up from colleagues of mine. So I'm just going to try out some new things this year and see if that kind of helps to, you know, kind of get more engagement or feedback. So shifting to office hours at each school, which I'll set for staff. So I'll just kind of pick days throughout the year where I'm at a school for a day and staff know that I'm there and able to schedule time with me if needed. Parent and family coffee hours. So we have tried those in the past. So those came up a few times in discussions this year. You know, last few years I've been focused on going out to PTO meetings again, but you know, we'll try the coffee hours for next year. And then one of the things that I've been looking to do, again, looking at what some of my colleagues around the state have done, but having an official student advisory group. So I'll work with the principals of each school and come up with some students from each level that can be part of that group. But again, not an exhaustive list there, but just some things that I wanted to make sure were captured that we know that we will be focused on as we move into next year. All right, so that is everything that I put together.
So, so we have some time here for open discussion and comments, suggestions, etc. Shall we, it looks like, Ms. Blank, you have something you want to start off with?
Sure.
Go ahead.
Okay. Heather, do you mind putting the, that last presentation? Yes, the last slide, please. Thank you. Appreciate how fast you are. So just to comment on huge amounts of work and hours, both on the department side, the school committee side, and especially the parent side have gone into this. Though I agree with these next steps, they seem slightly passive compared to I want to see true change. I don't want to just see, I really appreciate your last bullet there of going, I think that'll really help, of going to each school. I think that's a great one. But I'd like to see a few more action steps of how we are going to do this and maybe accountability, to you or to the principals of how we're going to ensure this doesn't fall off, because all this work went into it.
Mhm.
We had good collaboration. And then even with the slide before, ensuring the district policies strengthen our practices related to climate and culture, that seems very passive. And I want to just make sure that this doesn't get lost.
You know, just give me any recommendation. Again, that slide, I'm capturing what came out
yeah.
of that last.
Right,
subcommittee
and
meeting.
recognize this is
Right.
a
Yep.
roll up. I just want to let you know that I feel strongly about this and that I want.
Yeah, that's fine.
Go
Yeah.
ahead.
No, I was just saying that when we're working through the new strategic plan, I think that these like key recommendations certainly would be like a goal, and then we would have to have like action items
Yeah.
under it. That's how I'm visioning it like happening.
Okay. Just letting you know, I want to see action out of this, not just words.
Whatever suggestions you have, we'll capture.
Yeah, no, absolutely appreciate it though. Thank you for all the work from the team and from the parents and especially Emily Scan. Great work. I appreciate it.
I just have a quick question. I guess partly as a follow-up to what Sandra's saying, are there specific actions that you'd like to see? And where it mentions policy, review and drafting of policies, are there specific policies that we should be investigating?
To be honest, I think policy came up once.
Okay.
And so I feel like this is kind of vague, when you are aware of the really specific actions that could be taken, to think about taking those same families that will probably dedicate, more hours to discussing a strategic plan, which is, a 3-year document. Obviously, that process needs to take place, but right now we have very clear action items that, I feel like this is falling short of what we would hope.
Yeah, no,
even
I
within the next few
developed it from
months.
your list of recommendations, so if there's something missing, then we apologize, but we spent time with recommendations that came out of the last meeting, so did.
I mean, I think you
did we miss-
specifically
what did
said
we
that
miss?
any student, staff, or community survey would be addressing the strategic plan, but we do know that.
Fall,
Okay, but we already know that there are 60 recommendations, so unless principals will be asked to do 60 recommendations in the first month, I would think that a survey still focusing on what we could prioritize in school climate and culture would take precedent to the strategic planning effort, which we have to obviously do, but that's just like a global, longer-term planning effort of facilitating strategic planning. It's very different than these are very specific things that people want to just see now. Like they're not hard lifts, like they're.
So
I'm sorry,
you-
can you give
you-
an example of an action item that you're talking about, one of those not hard lifts?
You want to have, I mean, I have the whole list, so.
So one,
It's- And on that list, Emily, we have been,
Let's just have an example.
I'm
sure.
one for me that I would like to see is that last meeting, we had great lists come out of the brainstorming session. Recognize like that has to get, some things were repeated, but to have something over the summer or maybe the first right at the beginning of the school year, I'd like to see each of those lists of, for each school, talk to and sat down with that principal to say, hey, here were some recommendations for your school. Understand 100% can't be implemented, but what are your next steps of leading towards this goal?
So just ensuring that we have those meetings with principals.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to make sure I capture.
Yes,
Okay.
yep. To just have a meeting with each principal to go over what that final list, because I feel like really good ideas came out from that.
Mhm.
And a lot of them from the teaching staff. Yeah, come on up. You gotta come up and state your name.
Okay, I'm gonna go back to Liz, because you wanted to add something and then come up.
I just wanted to make sure, so the list you're referencing, we have, like, I feel like we have two documents, that we're working on right now, but there's one specifically that's called Climate and Culture Action Items that I've been working on, actually having discussions with principals and then following up as to where the status is of each of those action items. I feel like there has been progress on that list.
Yeah, I agree. And I
Okay.
took out the ones that have been accomplished and I added the action items from our fourth meeting. And so in the document that I prepared, it's all of them, but you know, that we could find the priority to improve technology within the district. We could find the top priority to improve student engagement. We could find, you know, we could find the top priority to improve. There was obviously at the school levels, but there were lots for the district, ways to improve communication with the district, within the district, ways to improve community engagement within the district. So I feel like that's like what could happen over the summer and come out in the September with, based on all the input we've already received. We don't, like, in order to even ask for another family forum for the strategic planning, you need to show these parents that these items are going to be considered.
So again, just give me, I just want to make sure I'm understanding, give me a clear example of.
Sure. And it
Well-
sounds like you guys might be doing it, but
Yeah.
I just want to
I just wanna make
verify
sure
because
we're,
we are not hearing it, that, or I'm not hearing it. And I just want to make sure that it happens, is that I want a meeting with each school to talk about what are the prioritizations and what can get accomplished before the start of the school.
okay,
And like one,
But it sounds like you're on that.
yeah, and I think like one example in the fall when we met with the parent groups, something that came out of that was that students really wanted like to be celebrated and recognized. And so we worked with the principals, and I think that you're seeing a lot of new recognitions that we haven't typically had in the past years. That's something that's come out of it. Conversations about new student orientation and lack of involving some students, and we've already had those discussions as well. I know that when we meet this summer for our administrators retreat, like an activity that I plan on working with is really sorting through some of these. And I think that there's been a great deal of work that we've done. I think that when you look at this list, especially with the tabs, the way you've organized it, Emily, it's great to see that there are a lot of action items that have been completed. This is a hefty list of items. So for us to be able to tackle them and continue to work through it, I think that that's right now where we're at with it.
So I agree. Maybe one of the actions that I am looking for is like the continuation of resolution from that list. You're welcome to come on up. Just state your name and address.
Tara Aboyan. I've got two, sorry, is it
Put the mic on.
on?
Oh, good, okay. Didn't see that.
Okay, Tara Aboyan, can you hear? Okay. So in recognition of the fact that I did hear something saying that something was changed. So Peliotis is, I hope I'm saying her last name correctly, is Rachel Challenge. The survey that was done out of that, one of the things that apparently was changed, but no specifics were given, were the PHS bathrooms. I'd like to know what actually changed. And I think you could market that and say, we changed something. I don't know what it is yet. I'd love to know what that is right now. What changed in the bathrooms, and then connect it directly with that survey and say, here's what the students were really concerned about. They don't want to go to the bathroom during the day. And this is why, and here's what we've fixed so far. It might not be full
Yeah.
solution, but
Yeah.
can you answer to that?
So, yeah, what I was
changed?
referring to is, there's a system called Smart Pass, right? So the middle school had taken the lead and piloted that this year. The high school was going to wait until next fall to pilot that, but they rolled it out after, I believe, April break, based on some of that feedback that we heard at, I think it was that third climate and culture subcommittee meeting. So that's what I was referring to.
Okay, that's terrific. I think that telling people, even telling the students, this survey that you did, and this is one of the products, it's not a finished product, but this is the progress we've made, and connect those two so
Sure.
that they see and parents
So
see
any recommendations on how to
how to
just
market
get it
that.
out through like regular communications? Is that what you're
Maybe
referring to?
like an Excel spreadsheet or a spreadsheet where you sort of have, here's the issue, here's the action
Emily,
taken.
don't you have a master spreadsheet of all the issues that have come up?
If you take the,
Like a dedicated part of maybe our agenda where we kind of like revisit those every 3 months and say like, what has,
Yeah.
what.
Like
which
some
ones
sort of
have been
update
addressed.
tracking kind of that,
Oh,
yeah.
Again, this wasn't meant to be an exhaustive list. I said that multiple times. I was just trying to capture at a high level.
Mhm.
What
so
had.
if
what
you
had
took
come
the pie
forward.
chart that was presented by Pilios' study
Mhm.
and show the bathrooms was a major concern, and actually put that in one of the newsletters and say, have a little thought bubble or something that came out of it. We thought about this, this is what we've actually done, and this is what it's changed. I think that's a huge thing, because I think a lot of people are tired of taking surveys and wondering
Mhm.
what happened with this. Did anything change? It's kind of to the point where what's the point of taking another survey?
Nope.
I think Mrs.
Understood.
Little would like to say something. You need to come up to the microphone though, sorry, just because it's on tape.
There you go, big and little.
Hello, no, I'm just kidding. So I just want to say that, so one of the things that recently, and it's going to sound very, very small, because I know the bathrooms is really a big thing at the high school, but one of the comments in the pulse survey for Hathaway was, we're working on communication, and we always are, but one of the comments was, why not invite parents to the community meeting, the parents of the students who are doing the presentations. So at every community meeting, somebody showcases their talent, somebody might sing a song or, whatever. So I thought, like, we can't invite all parents, right? But we can invite the parents of the kiddos who are in it. So that was a wonderful idea. Never thought about that, believe it or not. So we actually did that with as many people as we could this past time. And the student who played the guitar, their parents were there and they were thrilled. So, and I did put it in my updates. So in the Hathaway Happening, I wrote, I don't know if you saw it, but I did say, per feedback from the pulse survey, thank you for your feedback. We are now inviting parents of students who are participants in the community meeting to come and join us at the community meeting. So I think maybe you want to say something. I'll stand back here.
Yeah, no. So similar to Mrs. Little, in the Patriot survey that we do, or not Patriot survey, excuse me, the Patriot newsletter that we put out every Monday, around graduation season, it's been Tuesday, and 1 week, I think it was Wednesday. So you gotta bear with us, but there is a section in there that's dedicated to my specific goals. It's called Dr. Heath's Dashboard. And I have my 5 kind of personal goals for the school year. And each week I change basically how we're addressing them. And if there's no new information, I put down basically no new information. One of them is enhancing climate and culture at the high school, particularly as it relates to accountability and disciplinary situations. I think it's number 4 on the list. So when we were ready to roll out Smart Pass, again, it's not an infographic. And I think in hearing the feedback, we might have to make it a little bit more explicit so that people's eyes are drawn to it and maybe the newsletter as opposed to just font. So that's something that I'm hearing and considering kind of real time. But we did put in there in that number 4. And I like I said, I publish it pretty much every weekend with Pat Wenzel. We were looking into Smart Pass. We're rolling out Smart Pass. We now have Smart Pass. Smart Pass isn't going well. Like, we're revamping Smart Pass to make sure it's going better. So I think for a couple of weeks, that was kind of listed out in regards to, you know, one of the ways that we were trying to address that bathroom problem. I love the idea that Ms. Little just brought up of linking it directly to the pulse survey, because that was kind of the data point that we were working off of. But yeah, but that tends to be the way currently, at least, that we're communicating that information out. So on those Monday newsletters.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I mean, I think, what, you know, if we have something that says parent and student feedback matters in each newsletter or each missive, and then, you know, going to your point where it's like, here was the issue, or here was the comment, here's the, or we need more information, or we don't know what to do about this. We need suggestions. I mean, we don't always have to have all the answers, but, you know, I think your point's very well taken, that people want to hear that the time they put into giving their opinion matters, and it does. We just have to show it. Go ahead.
Just wanted
We
to.
do have somebody online too, just to let you know. with their
Okay.
Hand raised.
Well,
but-
go ahead, Ms.
Yep,
Gian.
yep.
So I would really encourage, I would like to see one final survey, even if it's to the members who attended these 4 meetings, or to the district, all families, to help us prioritize those 60 suggestions. I think it's very clear how to execute that. We found those customized questions are just so much better than the canned pulse questions that never really let you elaborate on a suggestion or say it's not applicable, or have really something specific kind of in mind instead of like a generic question. I personally had heard that the school committee has hosted listening sessions in the past to assess teachers' perspectives, and I really would love to see that again, because the district said staff morale is very important, and it's important to understand, you know, how this could, what there's, you know, what they would like to see, how it's definitely connected to school climate and culture. And then I am all about transparency, and I would really like to share the survey results with the district. I know at each of the meetings, we usually did kind of show the percentages of like
Yeah,
pulse and
we did
whatnot.
fall and winter. I can put together a spring. I knew there were other things that you were doing at that last meeting.
I personally feel like the student surveys were the most enlightening, and I think there was a discussion if Rachel's Challenge survey results would be made available at the high school level. I still feel like there's a little bit more to glean from the middle school Rachel's Challenge survey, but involving students to have a voice, not only just through the survey, but that we're responding to their feedback. And then we did say at a subcommittee meeting that where students attended at the high school, that knowing their voice is being heard and that they're part of the solution would be so much more sustainable. I think that would be a big part of, you know, September 1 is involving, I like the student advisory group, but like kind of building off of this existing work instead of kind of open office hours just seems like kind of new ideas.
Well, no, like student advisor group, open office hours, we're going to be connected to these items.
Okay.
Again,
Um,
could only summarize so much on the slides.
So, I think we all share the desire to make sure that nothing gets kind of lost next year, and that, you know, obviously the different schools would take maybe those action steps. That might be the best place to say, okay, middle school, here were your action steps. Maybe in the, you know, what are you going to prioritize, you know, as opposed to having just people kind of surveyed on what would be the priority from that. But I guess my big concern is this kind of mushing social emotional wellness, health and wellness, equity, climate and culture all in one committee. and I don't really understand. I think you had up here the RIDE thing.
Yep.
Does RIDE actually have a model on how that would work? Like, is it now an umbrella with 3 subcommittees under that, or? Because like right now, I mean, you have 4 health and wellness meetings, and that's all I mean, those agendas are pretty full,
Mhm.
right? So how, is that something that we would focus on flushing out? But then subcommittees usually get started in the fall, you know, we make sure all the appointments are set. So
Yeah,
where
so we
that
would
get
usually do
flushed out?
that as part of the summer school committee workshop.
Okay.
So I can definitely have more information for you on how RIDE is, you know, kind of engaging in that, pulling all
I
those
definitely,
topics
yeah, I
together.
definitely think that should be part of the workshop, just to think about ways to get that feedback that you guys were talking, or those check-ins that you were talking about,
Yeah.
whether they're in subcommittee or the full committee and things like that.
Yep, no,
Yeah.
that's what I was anticipating. Can I just back up? So I just trying to make sure I have everything else captured. I think I heard something about, do you want do you want us to send out another survey? I just want to make sure that when,
Questions that I was able to show which ones are district specific and which ones are school specific. And
Yeah.
how families help. Where the majority, one suggestion could have been one person, whereas another, we need to
Yeah.
kind of figure out, especially for working families, who couldn't attend those meetings, none of them are at night. Who have a majority of voices behind one, yeah.
Mhm.
Maybe by school though, so like the middle school surveys, what they see as a priority.
Yeah. I mean, I know you have that in a spreadsheet now, but we would have to build a survey, right? That's different from the pulse surveys. No, I know, but then it still has to be put into some sort of platform for us to send out. Correct, but that it doesn't just happen, right? Somebody has to do. Yep. I'm just trying to gauge when would we be looking at doing that? Just so I have it.
So Emily, are you thinking just the group that is on the invite? Or are you thinking that the 60-question survey should go out to all families?
I think maybe one thing might be to have, I know it's have sort of take a look and see if we can, you know, narrow it down from 60 questions to maybe, but I mean, yeah,
I mean,
but
do you want, I'm just, again, I'm trying to, okay, how do we
I
make this
think
actionable?
right now people's attentions are probably gone. If we're going to be really honest about most stuff, I mean, with school being kind of wrapping up. And I mean, so I think sending it out early August when
Okay.
people are starting to think about, you know, school and stuff might be a better idea. You know, just to
We'll have
capture.
the new, like our Aspen database turns over to the new school year, do you know what I mean, by August. So yeah, we would have the new families we could engage.
Would be engaged in.
Yeah.
So I mean, that would be my 2
Okay.
cents, is to sort of say, okay, let's, you know, kind of pull it together for late summer.
Okay.
And have it for early fall, maybe. Ms. Rose, did you say there was somebody wanting to make a comment online? Yeah.
The question is, will the committee continue to meet next year under the umbrella of the combined groups advised by RIDE to assist with moving from the information gathering that took place this year into the action taking steps being discussed tonight?
Good question. I mean, I think that's what we have to figure out, is what's the structure by which, I mean, I'm personally, I'm really pleased to see that you are going, that it's either already embedded or it will be embedded in school improvement goals, principal and district leader evaluation goals. And maybe at the workshop, we can also see, well, what are those benchmarks? What are those more specific? Because that's going to look differently at the high school than it does look at the elementary schools, right? But to have sort of saying, okay, this is now, we know that's embedded into kind of moving forward in implementation for those school improvement teams or something, you know, that would be one way to sort of ensure it's there. But then, you know, I think the other thing is then the school committee, whether it's the RIDE model or something else, right? That's what we have to figure out. I do think we have to remember that the strategic plan isn't just about climate and culture. So, I mean, we really, you know, we usually have an academic goal, we have a staff professional development goal, usually we have a facilities goal usually, but we also, I mean, we need something that's social, maybe it's the committee, health, wellness, equity, social, emotional kind of thing, right? So, I mean, it's clearly part of it, but I think those forums in the fall, we're not just asking people to repeat this work. It's really got to be, you know, maybe people want to see languages started in second grade or something, you know, or, you know, I mean, it could be, you know, those forums could touch on a whole lot of stuff, right? Yeah, but up to the mic, sorry.
Thank you. Tara Boyan again. My opinion on that is that this subcommittee should continue. We have addressed and identified a lot of things that need work. And instead of trying to find out what else needs to be done, actually move forward on the items that will, I mean, you could ask until, I mean, forever. And somebody will always come up with a new, what else could be done? We've already identified things. Go and look at Rachel's challenge and the other surveys and just say, okay, we're going to grab on to cell phone policy or electronic policy. And even this summer, somebody could come up with a stronger worded disciplinary action set so that on day one of school, middle school and high school, I don't think is a problem with the elementary schools, knock on wood so far, that they know that these are the consequences and these are the deterrents so that future actions are actually deterred. I went, careful how do I say this? I went to another local school recently for a walkthrough and was completely discouraged by the number of students when I walked in the classrooms that were on their phones, just typing away. And talking to some of the teachers there, they said that at the beginning of the year, they were gung-ho about policy. They thought they were clear on the policy. They didn't get support from their administration. They sent in, this kid did this, nothing happened. Parents were pushing back, all kinds of stuff. And then the teachers gave up. So by the time I walked in there, I would say that 95% of the kids had a phone in their hand.
Point,
Again,
this was not our district, right?
This was not our
Okay,
district.
just making
This
sure
was
that's
not our
clear to
district,
everybody.
but I do not want to wait until this becomes. And one thing that was curious about it is some of the teachers seem like, well, at least they're not causing problems. They're in zombie mode. They're passivated.
Okay,
They're-
but I
That's
do
my
think-
assumptions
I
from it,
mean,
but
I think, again, we do have now the model in Rhode Island, which says, you know, principals, I mean, we have a policy, but it's really up now to the leadership in each of the buildings to make sure that that's enforced or activated. And I think, you know, I would hope that if people saw that happening, that then they would have a conversation with the teacher and the building administrator, you know, for that. I mean,
But in support of the principals, we as school committee need strong policies so they can refer to.
yes, but we do policies and not procedures, right? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, we can take a look. I mean, both our middle and high school have the item addressed in the handbooks. We can take a look at strengthening. And we did at the last policy subcommittee, we talked about in September when we meet again, having the high school and middle school principal there to just have the conversation and see where, if there was, you know, something more needed for the district.
for a concrete example, for a specific thing, to make sure that it's written down and then also announced on the first day of school, I think that there should not be allowed to be any videoing by somebody's cell phone
you
of
can't.
anyone. You can't say that?
that's already
Yeah,
part of our policy.
Yeah, we have an acceptable use policy.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
okay, so is that made clear to everyone on day one that you
Probably
cannot-
not on day one, because think about what all goes on day one. You're finding the bathrooms, right? But I mean, I think we just have to sort of also say we have good administrators and we need to let them administer and make sure that their communities know what the rules are, that the students know what the rules are, and what the consequences are, right? I mean, I think there was something in there about MTSS, but also consequences. I think we got to be very careful about what the school committee's role is and what the administrator's role is. I mean, we need good policy, but we also just need to make sure that they're implementing it. And if that's the problem, but again, the example you're giving is not Portsmouth, right? So, but maybe there are other things. Maybe it's bullying, maybe it's, you had some other examples up there, right? So, maybe that's basically saying every building needs to have, and they have the PTO groups, but that's tends to be your parent advisory group in a way, right? Because, just like you're having a student advisory council, maybe the schools need a parent advisory council and they hear from parents that, hey, I'm really concerned about this or something.
Okay, well, a suggestion I have is to put signs possibly outside bathrooms and locker rooms saying that it's legal to be videotaping. I know that the YMCA, they've had problems with people creating TikTok videos in the locker rooms. So I am not in the high school. My kid's not in the high school, so I haven't seen that, witnessed it. I don't know. I don't want to wait and find out that that happens. So that's why I'm trying to make sure that kids know that you will be prosecuted if you do this. It's illegal. Don't do this.
Okay, well, we are kind of going down a rabbit hole on one issue.
Mhm.
And I think what we're wanting to do here is kind
I
of think about
captured that, so that's
the
actually-
district next works, and you're able to
That's
sort of
fine.
capture that concern. And
Yeah.
like you said, policies coming back to that maybe in the fall there.
Sounds like we got a
Thank you.
pretty full agenda for the workshop.
Other questions, comments, administrators? Yes, come on up. Just state your name and address for the record.
Address too?
Yeah, usually they do.
Tara Woods, live in, like physical address where I live? Really? Okay, I live on Wind Rock Circle in Portsmouth. Hi.
Hi.
So I'm here tonight as a parent. I also work as an advisor in the district, but I sat through the majority of the meetings for the subcommittee, Climate and Culture. I want to thank everyone involved because I know that a lot of work did go into not only developing the subcommittee, but all of the time and commitment that went into creating really substantial, meaningful communication back and forth. I've been hesitant to ever show up to a school board meeting before, to be honest with you. We moved to this community 3 years ago, and since we've arrived, we've really struggled to feel like we're welcome and accepted in this community. And so I sort of second your thoughts about how this climate of, the subcommittee of climate and culture being sort of grouped into the overall health and wellness, to me feels like a step going backwards when I was really happy that we were moving forward with developing this subcommittee, because to me, after the experiences that we've had in this community, it really felt like it was speaking to someone like me and my family who we do feel like we struggle to fit in and feel welcome here. So I would just sort of ask that you reconsider segmenting that subcommittee and fracturing it away from its own sort of identity and lumping it into the health and wellness. And if it seems like it's sort of doubling down on topics that are already in that, again, the communication piece to the families would help us identify why it doesn't feel like it's lessening the attention to such an important issue. at a time where I feel like it's really needed. Like from my perspective as a parent in this district, I don't feel like things are getting better. I feel like they're just sort of getting worse. I feel like I have to show up at your doorstep in your offices again and again with similar issues that are making it harder and harder for us to feel like we're fitting in despite our best efforts, despite coming and putting a good foot forward and making contributions to the school community that I think make a big improvement and help the lives of the kids that attend these schools. It's not easy right now for a family like mine here. And I just, when you guys make these policies, when you make these changes, when you strip down a subcommittee that just started a year ago and lump it into another category, you're speaking to my family in a different way than maybe someone else's family. It feels a little different to my family. And I just want you to remember my family as you make these decisions, because we want to be in this community and feel welcome. We want to be in this community and feel safe. And right now it just doesn't, no matter what happens, it just doesn't feel that way. So I agree with what you sort of said, and I appreciate all of the work that you've, done. I read what you wrote, and, not all of it. It was 34 pages. I haven't had time, but I know that you've put in a lot of work. I know, Liz, you have, and I appreciate you guys, and I appreciate you always letting me into your offices to kind of vent the issues that we've been facing. And I know that Portsmouth is not immune to bullying, discrimination, harassment. This unfortunately is something that no community is immune to. I think the difference will be the commitment that we make to sticking to our words, to wanting to make change, to not giving up, to not just lumping it into another category. We're only going to be as good as our, the best foot we put forward. So, again, I thank you. Thank you for listening to me. I just hope that we can kind of continue on the work that we've been doing. I really do want to see the changes that I feel we all want to see made come to fruition, because there is a lot of work that can be done.
Yeah, thank you.
So.
That's a really important comment, and really important for us to hear. I mean, I think there is a clear commitment from the administration and from the schools to keep the work going. We don't want it to get lost in the shuffle. I think, the challenge is how do we embed it and how do we manage it? But it's a really.
And I mean, to walk away with 60 items that, that speaks volumes to that activity that we went through, and we did it fairly quickly. So I think if we had even a little bit more time, I can't imagine how many more suggestions that we would have had. I just think we got to keep our foot on the gas pedal instead of letting up.
Great, thank
Are
you.
Are your suggestions recognized in the information? I mean, has your voice been made clear to our subcommittee?
Yeah.
So I didn't get to read all of the suggestions, so I can't answer your question directly. I can tell you that I have, my family has faced some discrimination. My children inside the schools have dealt with bullying, harassment, discrimination. One of the things that unfortunately we've dealt with are swastikas on the desks at the middle school. I have asked, I believe repeatedly, what policy is there in place when a hate symbol is found on school property to fully investigate said hate symbol, whether it's a swastika or a horrible word. I happen to know that one of the swastikas that my child found had unfortunately been etched into a desk and had been left there for years. So all I can think about is how many eyes laid their eyes on that swastika and believed that that was an appropriate symbol anywhere, let alone in a school building. The second swastika that was found, unfortunately, the my child brought it to the teacher's attention. The teacher walked over with a spray bottle and without another adult set of eyes seeing it, sprayed it, wiped it, looked at my child and asked, "Is that good enough?" And my child was kind of floored, like, no, that's not good enough, because now there's no other record of it. I know that the district, once the carved in swastika I had brought to their attention, they actually brought in a third-party company to come in and actually sand it out of the desk and bring that, I don't know if it was a soapstone table or what type of tabletop that was on the science table, but they actually brought in a company to grind and polish it and buff it out. That's how far etched it was in. And so the fact that the one that was drawn in pencil was just wiped away, my child was like, well, no, that's actually not good enough. And my question to you that I posed was, what is the policy? What are you going to do to make sure that whether it's elementary school, a middle school, or a high school, any school building in this district, what is the policy? And how do we make sure that all of the teachers, custodians, any administrator that may come across this symbol, to make sure that they're going to know what the policy is and how to properly document it and investigate it? Because you're not the only school district who's finding these hate symbols on your desks or on your walls or on your lockers. You're just not. It's happening in every district, in every town, every city, USA. But how we move forward in properly investigating these types of incident, this is what's going to speak to the student body and say, hey, this is not okay. They see something like this on these school grounds, they're going to take it seriously. There's going to be a full investigation. There's going to be appropriate consequences. But if it's just kind of like brushed away and put on the child who reported it to determine whether it's good enough.
I think you've highlighted a good point as well when we're talking about getting feedback. Maybe one of the things we could hear back at the workshop or whenever we're doing the continuing report is, how are we doing staff training on things like whether it's cell phone use or hate, bullying, where in the professional development or the faculty meetings does that really get covered or discussed? And how does that get, because we have new teachers coming into the district, we can't assume. So maybe that would be something that we can report back on. And again, I think closing that loop that says, okay, this is what's supposed to happen. Now that everybody knows that that's what's supposed to happen, if it doesn't happen, then we've really got to, tighten it up, kind of thing. So
Send such a more clear message to the kids about what's acceptable and what isn't, if there's actually like significant,
punishment, yeah. And
not
one of
even
the
the
things-
punishment, but I just think that if they know that,
Consequences.
that this is really going to be investigated and, there will be expected consequences or accountability for such things, then maybe they'll think twice about doing it because they're not going to want to be caught. And I will say that Dr. Masterson from a school level did implement some sort of policy, but I think that I'm looking for an overall district sort of stance and policy.
Well,
Great.
just to answer that very limited question, the district's anti-discrimination and anti-harassment policy is policy AC. It was adopted originally in 1996 and revised in 2021. So it's been on the books for a while and includes a grievance procedure or references a grievance procedure.
For reporting,
Yeah,
Or-
and
but how is it investigated?
that's included
Oh,
in the
that's
policy
included.
as well. What it does not include, and you bring up a good point, is our physical manifestations of these things and how they're addressed. I mean, the assumption is that those would be got rid of, but in terms of turning that into a learning opportunity, that's not included in the policy. As we've said before in this meeting, it then falls on the individual schools to implement the policy to make sure that teachers are reporting when these things happen or students or parents. and to make sure that the policy is being implemented consistently and all that kind of thing. So the actual consequences and that, and all of that end up being more the procedures that are in the handbook and fall more on the individual schools and the administrations there. But that's the district policy that you're asking for.
And one final point I'll make on this is that in a town like Portsmouth, who unfortunately has an East Main Road problem, for lack of a better word, to describe our most famous eyesore on East Main Road. When we have adults who behave like that and speak like that and display that, completely free of consequence, unfortunately, the kids begin to understand at too young an age, as it's a bus stop, I believe, that you can do these things without consequence. And I just don't think that there's any single person in this room that I've spent time with personally, because I recognize so many of you from these subcommittee meetings, that wants to see this type of language or behavior manifesting in the generations that are coming behind.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good point, but there is also, I think, I mean, unfortunately, we can't deal with that.
Right,
But,
we do have
but I
kids
do
who
think
see
there
it.
was a point that was raised at one of the high school meetings where the students were saying, really, change has got to come from the students too. And so what I personally would really hope to see next year, the district focus on is student voices, hearing students sort of work with other students and, trying to sort of say, maybe that is going on in the outside world, but there's no place for that inside the schools, right?
Exactly.
And how that works, I mean, I don't think anybody has a magic bullet for that, but really, I liked seeing the student advisory boards. I like seeing the student voices. Maybe it's more student surveys and showing feedback. But I really feel that if we're really going to try and make it different within the schools, we've really got to start there as well. It can't just be the adults kind of coming in, wagging a finger sort of thing. So, but thank you very much for your comments. I appreciate it. We are going to need to move on here in a couple of minutes, but
I just
comments,
have one
go ahead.
comment. As a sitting school committee member, almost 12 years now, we've gradually learned, at least in my case, in the last couple of years, this is the first time actually I've heard about this specific type of discrimination, but we've heard about racial discrimination, which I frankly didn't realize existed. And so these things haven't been coming to the attention of the school committee. And I don't know how they were previously being handled
Well,
administratively.
yes, Fred, they have.
No, yeah.
I can give you several examples, but
We've had those sports incidents.
no, we've had some executive session presentations, if you remember.
Oh, yeah.
We've
but
had
those
the
are- those are
equity
the past
incident
year.
survey.
I'm saying in the course of 12 years, they've
No.
only recently come to our attention.
Well, yeah. At least 3 years ago, we equity committee.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's been something that hasn't risen to that level for some time.
I've only been here 3 years. June is my 3rd year in Portsmouth as a resident. So as one of probably very few Jewish mothers in town, the fact that my Jewish student has found 2 swastikas in less than 1 calendar year at your middle school, and one of them was there for years.
Yeah.
It's a problem.
Point taken.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, I
Ms.
just want to
McKay.
add one positive note, that one of the most, you were talking about change coming from students, and one of the most positive things I saw all year long was the meeting that we had at the high school that had the kids talking about the Rachel's Challenge survey, because that was a group of kids who were very audibly standing up and saying, we volunteer, like, we know these things need to change, and we're gonna, it has to come from the students. And here we are saying we're willing to do that. That was extremely inspiring and hopeful for me. The other thing that happened at a meeting is that there was representation from the New Patriots Club, which I also think is a tremendous new thing. Because we had gotten, there was a lot of feedback at some of the early climate and culture meetings about parents new to the district and the process of feeling at home in this district, which is a tough thing. I mean, I was living here 20 years and people still called me summer people, you know. But it's tough. But the new Patriots Club, I think, is a huge step in the right direction. And again, that's student driven and it's coming from students, reaching out to students. And so those, I just want to say, those are two things that are happening that I find, it's not the end, but it's a beginning.
And I really want to give kudos to all the parents and all the participants who came to the meetings and took the time for their voices. And I know, as Dr. Viveras has said, it's not every district's willing to have the hard conversations. And I think I applaud the district for willing to do that and being open to continuing the work and, school committee members donating time. I mean, these are thorny issues, but we know what we want. And I think that needs to be in the vision of what we really want an inclusive, safe, welcoming school to be. And I think, the more specific we can be on that, then we know what we're all striving for, and we know when we're not making it too, so, it was a great start this year. And again, many thanks to the subcommittee. Ms. Blank was on that, Ms. Kelly, Ms. Skian, Dr. Viveras, Ms. Rhodes, Dr. Kenworthy, lots of parents. And I just think we all know it has to continue. So. But we do need to continue the meetings. Sorry.
Well, I have, just like Peliotis brought in Rachel's challenge, there's a group out of Providence, Sandra Boinstein Holocaust Education Center. I'm not personally Jewish, but in support of giving people voices to genocides and different groups that have been persecuted over the years. This group, they have a LIFT Institute, LIFT, LIFT Leadership Institute with teens, grades 9 through 12. They go and they put together the groups. They often offer dinner even. And the groups meet together and they develop plans for what they can do to make change. And they often have profound speakers come in and talk. I tried to get my daughter, again, who's not Jewish, but involved in this because they cover Armenian genocide, lots of different unfortunate situations. And they didn't have enough people interested. So I think looking into this specifically, because it's already a program out there that has done wonders, and they've actually done campaigns where they got things on city buses in Providence where they wrote and they designed positive messaging. I would ask that somebody who has the power to bring this into our school to look into the Sandra Boinstein Holocaust Education Center and the LIFT program specifically. So thank you.
Thank you. All right. Well, again, it was thank you for the presentation. It was overview, and clearly there are many next steps and to be continued, I think, is how we will handle the end of this discussion. Moving on to business B, can I have a motion, please?
I move for discussion and action on the fiscal year 2025 food service management contract with Chartwells.
Second.
Well, we're on discussion. Mr. Diero.
Sure. So I think this is kind of a timely item for the agenda since we had that great presentation last week from Donna Humphreys from Chartwells.
Yep.
So asking you tonight to approve a one-year renewal of the food service management contract with Chartwells for FY25.
There was a lot of backup in here. on
Yes,
this. So
yes.
I would just ask, obviously, the district supports this renewal. We're very pleased with Chartwells right now,
Yes.
and we're getting a good deal.
We are. We're under the state, RIDE has a statewide contract. It's a 5-year contract, but under USDA rules, they're always like 1-year renewals for 5 years. All the East Bay districts are part of this as well, and we're very happy. We want to continue.
Thank you. Seeing no questions, all in favor? Any opposed? Unanimous 6-0. I appreciate the summary. We are now on policy. Ms. McDade.
I move for discussion and action on policy EF, food services.
Get a second? Second? All right, go for it.
We saw this policy last week and we made some minor changes to it. We removed the part about, using credit service and, corrected, another statement just to make it factual with what's going on.
Okay. No changes. All in favor? Any opposed? Unanimous 6-0. Business D, please.
I move for discussion of policy GBEC, drug-free workplace.
Second.
This is the first time we're bringing this to the full committee.
Mrs. Aguirre was not able to be here tonight, but she did, give me a few notes, as we've discussed in policy. This is a requirement under the Drug-Free Workplace Act and a policy that we didn't have currently.
Oh, because I was seeing we didn't have any updates or anything,
Right.
so that was gonna be my question. And
Just for clarifier, this is for the administration, teachers, the adults, correct?
Yeah, so I'm sorry, it is a revisions of a policy, but to bring it in line with the Drug-Free Workplace Act. Yes, this is, so we have the student chemical health policy, right, which we've spent time with as well. And this is basically the staff component.
So we don't have to have at the bottom the reference to the other policy? We're just kind of, because it just says first read, second read. It doesn't have like updated policy. Because I thought we had a drug-free workplace
Yeah.
policy.
No, we had, okay, that was the little short one, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, we had
now I'm getting confused.
what we were calling our drug-free workplace policy before was a paragraph that was more of a philosophical, this is a drug-free workplace kind of a thing. And the new guidelines require a lot more detail. And so we renamed that one and kept it. And we actually approved that, I think,
Right,
2 or
okay.
3 meetings
yep.
ago. And then, so that's sort of the general statement that goes with our A policy.
Brand new policy,
And this-
no previous
So this is a
references.
new,
Oh, got it.
even though it has the same name as an old policy.
All right, that's my only question. No, okay, not voting on this because it's just second read?
Yep.
Can I E, please?
I move for discussion of policy ICA, the school calendar.
Second.
And this one is a revision of a current policy that was in the old numbering system.
No changes.
No, we're seeing this for the
Yep,
first time.
no changes other than the coding.
Right,
Right.
okay. Thank you very much for that work. All right, so before we adjourn, town council budget hearing tomorrow night in the chambers. I think I've gotten RSVPs from. Are you coming? You're a maybe. Okay, Ms. McDade, Ms. Rhodes, Ms. McDade and I will definitely be there. Ms. Blank will be a maybe. And then our final school committee meeting for this academic year is June 25th, in 2 weeks. So thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for commenting. And we wish everybody a wonderful evening. Movement for adjournment, please.
Second.
On favor, 6-0.